All right, Taylor, thanks so much for hopping on. This is the inaugural podcast, actually, the very first guest. How do you feel about that?
Uh, this is only my second, so I think it's cool. It's cool to be the first one for you.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesome, and it's great to have some exposure for you as well. I know we've been working together for a couple of months now, but honestly, I just love to start off by learning more about your story. I mean, I know you grew up as an athlete. I'm sure you've had a lot of sports. Like you played football for a couple of years, been in the military. Then you went into the gyms and the fitness. Like, where did that all come from? Was your family kind of already big into fitness and athletics, or was it just kind of in your nature to want to kind of gravitate towards that?
I mean, there's definitely something in my family. Both my parents were athletes, um, and even I continued to be active after high school, and so and then I also grew up with two brothers and a sister. We're all pretty close in age, so I think there's that competitiveness there as well. And I was a middle child basically of the three boys. So it went my older brother, me, my little brother, and then our little sister was the youngest. And so, always there's always that competition to keep up with your older brother, uh, and then I had my little brother trying to keep up with me, and break through his own, under the shadow of two older brothers. So it definitely pushed all of us to be better. Um, my dad was a high school football player. Could have gone on and played football in college, but he decided not to. But then he played like a ton of rec sports, and was just very active. So I think that's where it all started. I did football for 9, 10 years, all the way up through junior college football, played 2 years before the Army, and was also a wrestler. So I wrestled for 8 or 9. And yeah, that really, those two sports are very, competitive in their own ways. One's a team sport, one's more of an individual sport in a sense. And I really loved it. And I took, all those lessons that I learned from sports and took them to the Army, and was always one to be pushing myself on my PT test, getting better each time, maxing them out, scoring more than 100%, and always trying to, do things above what everybody else, the status quo was.
Hmm.
I only did 4.5 years, but I, got out for certain reasons that weren't because I hated the Army or that I wasn't good at it. I just didn't want to raise a family in the Army, honestly. But during my time in the Army, I, just fell in love with being fit, being the fittest one out there, getting to do things like go to Ranger school and passing Ranger school. So eventually I, because of my fitness level and how much I pushed myself, I got put in charge of running our PT for every morning for the platoon. And so that's how I kind of got like this passion for like pushing other people too. Like there's a lot of times I'd be in the gym by myself, just me. Nobody else from my unit or my barracks, while they're out doing their thing, partying, having fun. I was in the gym working out. And, so right after formation, would change, go to the gym for a few hours, and then come home in time to grab dinner at the chow hall before that closed. And then I'd go to my room and eat and hang out and read or do something. So I was always looking at like muscle and fitness magazines, Men's Health, reading up on it. And, during my time in junior college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or be. I had a kind of an idea, but no real like true guidance. And so when I was in the Army and getting ready to get out, my little brother, he had went on and played college ball at a 4-year, and ended up getting hurt. But he was doing strength and conditioning. So talking with him, I'm like, so, what do you do? What are you going to do exactly with this degree? And so he told me, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, I'm going to do that too. So my original goal when I got out was go back to school, become a strength and conditioning coach. So I went back to school, got my bachelor's in kinesiology, and then went to grad school, got into grad school, went to grad school, with a emphasis under the kinesiology department with a an emphasis in strength and conditioning. So, but by that time I was married. We had one kid, had another at the end of grad school there, and kind of realized, man, breaking into that, Division 1 or 2, strength and conditioning level, would take longer than I probably would have liked or needed it to. I needed to work and provide for a wife and 2 kids. So I kind of ditched that dream and just decided to do the private sector route. I could make more money faster. I saw what my little brother went through with his, experience until he finally got a full-time paid position, strength and conditioning job. And I was like, I can't do that. Straight up, I can't be that. I can't do that. As much as I love strength and conditioning, love working with athletes, I just realized, hey, like, I gotta make money. I gotta do it fast. I had my benefits through GI Bill and all that stuff through school, and that was ending. So my wife wanted to get back up to where she's from, so we moved to Chico, California, and I found a job in a local gym and worked my way up through that for about 3.5 years. Until then, I decided I'm done working for somebody else and wanted to, open my own spot. So I had been right when I got out and got some school under my belt, I went and got my certifications for, I certified personal trainer through NASM. Once I took my CSCS certification the week before finals of my last semester in undergrad, and I passed that. And then in grad school, I got my USAW. So I was on that path. I was all set, and I was working in gyms, working with people individually or as groups through college, through my graduate school, and training people. So by the time I had decided I was done working for somebody else, it had been 9 years of training people, and it was just like, yep, I'm finished. I was pretty much maxed out at the gym I was at with how much I could make, and even maxed out with what they would allow me to do. There wasn't a lot of support. So, my philosophy versus their philosophy, it's kind of like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it just won't work.
Yeah.
We were bumping heads a little bit. Not fun when you ask for certain equipment so you can train more of the athletic population. And one of the owners tells you, well, can't you just do that with dumbbells? I'm like, yes, but
not quite.
not to get them, to a strength level where we would like to see them. So, I mean, by all means, you probably could, but I wanted to use trap bars. I wanted to use more barbells. We didn't have a lot of barbells, and so I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to do it myself.
Okay.
That's kind of got me into it. That's kind of like the path I took as far as, my experience and what I really wanted to do, but versus what I ended up doing. But it just kind of came down to that love of helping people, like I did in the Army, help people get in better shape, leading PT, and, going above and beyond personally to gain that experience, gain that knowledge of what it really meant, how to do it right, and doing it on my own, and then getting to study it through school and, on my own for certifications and stuff is really enjoyable for me.
Yeah, wow. So when you were making the decision to go into the military, into the Army, was that a difficult one? Because I can imagine, you playing football for 9-10 years, you would have had a chance to maybe go pro. Was that kind of a crossroad for you, would you say, in your life or your career right there?
I wasn't a pro level caliber athlete. I'll be real. But I loved college football, and I wanted to go on and play in a 4-year. That was my dream. The Army thing really Yeah, it was a crossroad. I could have gone on. I had talked to a handful of colleges. My coach was really good at getting even small colleges out to recruit us, and so. Um, but at the same time, like 9/11 was something that happened my senior year in high school, and uh, Pat Tillman died while I was playing football for Butte College in Chico, California, and that was somebody who I looked up to and followed a lot. He was a local guy from the area I'm from, San Jose,
Hmm.
and so um, I'd actually known his younger brother for a short period of time. Went to football camps, with him, and uh, so when Pat Tillman quit the NFL to join the Army, that was something I was like, okay, that's badass. That's something something to think about. And I had a strong feeling for patriotism and going and doing my part for the Army, for the military, and for the service of our country. And so um, that's kind of what pushed me. And then when he was killed in action, I kind of decided, yeah, I'm going. If he can give up everything, give up his life, give up his career, then I could give up something too. So that's really what kind of pushed me to the Army. It was purely that, honestly.
No, that's very commendable, and of course, thank you for your service. Of course, um, I guess
My pleasure.
jumping forward to Creed, you opened the gym in it was 2019, right?
Yep, we've been open for 5 years now.
Oh wow! So you're open right, I guess, the year before COVID. So I guess
Yeah.
talking about crafting a gym, with the kind of equipment that you'd want to see to kind of cater towards the audience that you'd want to train. How was that process like? Kind of like creating the map out of all the equipment, of the layout, and the kind of demographic. Was there a lot of, I guess, unexpected surprises that you may have felt in terms of just opening a gym? I'm sure there was a lot of things that you probably learned, or maybe even made mistakes in as you were going along.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good mentor who was a business coach. He wasn't a coach for gym owners, but he generally knew business very well. He had put the many times and said, "Man, you need to open your own spot." Like, just kind of put that bug in my ear, you know, prior to me even thinking about it really, and kind of helped guide me and coach me through what it meant and what it was like to start a business, starting with a business plan. I did my homework. Went into the small business development centers here in town and sat with counselors, sat with people who counseled me on what I needed and what it would take to get a loan and open up a spot. And so it was a good year-long process of just sitting down and writing like my mission statement, writing um, my my goals, writing my vision and what that would look like. And so it was a very much of a you know process in to that final product. And I learned a lot about business, about what it takes to ask for money, and doing your homework on the economical status, the competitors, all those different variables that it takes to be successful, and find that niche market, find who you're going to work with, explain to somebody why it's going to work, and do the research of where the fitness industry was heading. So, and I had worked in gyms from one-on-one personal training to 2-on-1 to 5-on-1 to boot camp, large groups. um, Even one of the things I did when I was in San Jose, I worked in a chiropractor's office on the side. And so what we would do is you know I would have my assessments that paired with the chiropractor's assessments, and then we would come up with basically a plan to make these people better, get out of pain. So it wasn't just about the chiropractor making money, and all his adjustments, where that just keeps on repeating the cycle of, somebody feels good and then 2-3 weeks later they start to feel bad again, and then they come back for more adjustments. He wanted to really help people get better, and he knew and saw how much. Well, he was actually a client of mine. I trained him and his wife at a gym just basically next door to his chiropractor office. And so working with them and building that rapport, helping them through their issues and their pain, getting them out of pain through postural work, corrective exercise, mobility, strengthening, all that, spectrum. He's like, yeah, we could use you. Let's do this. So we started to do it, and we would build the insurance through his codes, and I would get paid, he would get paid. And, we created a little small workout room in his office where, I would help people. And so, knowing what the fitness industry was on a large scale, and all the different things you could do within the industry, the types of gyms that are out there, what's working best, what's more financially, affordable for people, long term. So I took a lot of that stuff into consideration when I, started my vision, started my business plan. And so, the biggest, lessons probably is just be ready as much as you can. You're never going to be fully ready, but just to take those initial steps and take action. There's a lot of, smart people out there who I follow in the fitness industry, like Alex Hormozy, and, there's something he said. It's like, you're never going to be exactly ready. You may not be like successful in the beginning, but, just remember you're early, you're in it early, you're still doing it, you're still getting it done. So keep on pushing, keep on building it, and, it'll happen. It'll be successful the more you pour into it and do it correct. So, but yeah, as far as surprises, when you're prepared, when you've had a good amount of experience in many different cities, many different, types of gyms like I had, I think, and even being in Chico for, 3.5 years before I opened doors, it gave me a good idea of what was available, what was out there. Mm-hmm. And the status of the area, as far as what people were willing to pay, and getting it, doing your research of what everybody else is charging, what kind of training's going on, who the trainers are in the area, and how to, really be better in a sense, right? How to compete with that. And so I don't have honestly, a lot of surprises. When you're continuing to try to learn, educate yourself, grow with the industry, there's really no surprises other than COVID. That was the biggest surprise, a year into my, being open, literally 14 months, and then COVID hit. Yeah. And so that was something that, I had to adjust on. And, I had contacts with other people who, were doing online training, and listening to some other coaches and people talk, once that stuff started coming out and how things were going to probably shift. I jumped on it as fast as I could, and it probably helped save me for the most part. Switching a lot of my clients to just online, app training with an app. I use True Coach. There's a lot of good apps out there. One of my good friends who I worked with at the previous gym, he had split off. He had opened his own brick and mortar for a little bit, and then decided he's just going to go solely to remote training. And so I got a hold of him. We chatted, said, hey, what's it look like for you? What do you do? And I pretty much, emulated a lot of what he was doing, the same app, even True Coach, and just learning how to adjust with, the punches, roll with them. So, that was the biggest surprise. And I flirted with the I don't know, that red line, I guess. I stayed open for the most part. I never really truly shut down. Being in Northern California, where a little bit more free will than, some of the bigger cities in the United States are. So I just kept it quiet, tried not to draw a lot of attention to myself, and just had, people who were like, Taylor, I don't want to work out at home. That just sounds terrible to me. I'm like, well, I'm not shutting down. So, if you want to be here, then I'll be here to train you. So I did, a bit of both. For the people that wanted to go home, I gave them the app, trained them, even sent them home with bands and other equipment that I had, so that they had something at home to do. And then I trained people who didn't want to work out at home. I did a lot of, Facebook Live workouts too. That was a big shift. So having a couple of classes a day of Facebook Live where anybody could join. And then, so yeah, I was able to just, skate by. People kept on paying for training. I stayed open. And then when things kind of cleared back up, all my clients basically came back, they left their home, come back to the gym, and, decided, hey, I want to work out at the gym again. So I think we all have to make our own, choices. And that's the choice I made, and it worked out for me. I know certain places weren't as fortunate as me, but, I'm also one to not be pushed around just by mandates, right? So mandates aren't law, so I think people need to know their rights. And, I served in the Army for my rights and for other people's rights, and I wasn't going to let bureaucrats take them away just because of a flu.
Yeah.
So,
And it definitely sounds like you made the right call. And, it's, I think, going back to the idea of not kind of overthinking it, like not putting too much research into it, just kind of taking action, making a decision, putting all your eggs in where you think they need to be going. And, obviously, like you were saying, COVID was a huge surprise, and it's great that you were able to really adapt super well to that. And it sounds like you were able to even continue to build up your community within the gym, even with the Facebook workouts and, still accommodating some people. I guess that kind of leads into the question about community. I mean, how were you able to build up your strong community within your gym? Was it mainly through like online means, like, having a Facebook group and doing these kinds of things? Or do you think that it really comes down to just being at the gym, being that, face of the brand, so to speak, and really just, communicating with everybody? How did you build your brand in your community?
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not really good at the Instagram, Facebook posts. I'm not super consistent with them. I'm not look at me type guy as far as, social media goes. I try to push the gym where I can, share information where I can, but, I don't think it was a social media thing for me. How I built my community, it's more being in here. People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, just being that one person who wants to see these people get better, get fit, get healthy, and being that face in the gym, always in the gym with them, helping them out, when you're with clients, paying attention, doing what's right for them, not just what is up on the board. That's one of my philosophies in my gym here as a medium group fitness training center. It's semi-private personal training. We run classes of up to 10 people at a time in a session. Sessions are an hour long, but within each session, it's personalized for the individual's needs and abilities. And so my demographic, where my background would be strength conditioning for athletes, I have a very wide age group here and ability levels, and being able to assess each person's needs and abilities, and then take that information and give them the proper progressions, and getting them out of pain. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've done. in my training, in my gym, is, really helping people get out of pain through, smart training them smart. You know, everybody laughs because we don't do burpees here. Uh, you know, I would be considered a strength and conditioning gym, but it's also a, place where people do a lot of mobility, a lot of post rehab type stuff to get them better, and then strengthen. And so, we do a little bit of everything, but just not hurting people. It's one reason we don't do burpees, is there's not a lot of people who can do it safely, without hurting themselves. And there's always something that's just as effective and better for them, for that individual. There's some people in here who, if we're doing some type of interval or something and they're like, "Can I do a burpee?" I'm like, "Yeah, go for it. Let me see your burpee." Okay, yep, that looks good. Or I'll say, "Hey, you know what? Your hip mobility is pretty much, crap. Let's modify that, or let's do something different." So, I love to do burpees personally, but like, not a lot of people can do them properly. Not a lot of people can do them. So there's always something else you can smoke somebody with other than a burpee. So that's just my approach. It's like, there's nothing wrong with burpees if you can do them right. There's not an unsafe exercise. It's just doing it unsafely. And so we try to mitigate that risk, to injury, and build that person up, and once they can create that better mobility, stability, and strength, and let's do burpees. But gotta work them through that progression first.
Right. Okay. So when you're
really just, me, hiring good coaches, coaches that care, and then, doing stuff throughout the year that brings people together and builds that community through that. So that's what I do.
Okay, so in terms of, I guess, balancing somebody's fitness goals, like let's say somebody wants to lose X amount of pounds, or even gain a certain amount of pounds, how do you balance a training regime where, they're working out and they're eating in the right way, but also in a way that prevents injury? Because I guess to segue into the 6-week challenge model, which has been, very effective for you, how do you make sure that people are reaching their goals, but in a safe manner where, they're not being pushed too hard in favor of, let's achieve the goal, but at what cost? You know what I mean?
So I follow and have studied, a lot of precision nutrition there at that company. And I take that kind of approach with them, with people, where that progress, it might be a little slower, but it's really meant to build, those small wins to get to that ultimate goal, not just, kick somebody's ass in the gym, just to make them sweat, make them sore, and feed them, but, in a calorie deficit, all the time, just to see those goals all of a sudden hit, because, it's not smart, because as soon as they, back off, or, change something, then they're going to gain that weight back, So for me, it's more like, start with one thing, change it. All right. If a person doesn't eat breakfast, and that may be the thing we focus on, is, all right, your goal this week is to eat breakfast. That's it. Okay. Once you can get a good balanced breakfast in, with the serving sizes that we've, determined, then it's going to move on to the next thing. And so I show people, like, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, all the meals, the food, the macronutrients, the serving sizes, and all that. Give them their choices with food lists, give them recipe guides, so that they're fully, like, have that ability to go and do it and execute it. But then it's like, eat till you're full. If there's still food on your plate, that's okay. You don't have to eat all of it just because that's what's said to eat at the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Let's build up to that. As your body adapts to eating breakfast again, for those breakfast skippers. Once that becomes a habit, and we can move on to other things to change. We definitely want to tell them like, hey, these are things you definitely want to stay away from, but I'll tell anybody off the street, if they ask me, stay away from processed foods, stay away from seed oils, and processed oils. Like, stop eating the crappy American diet that we have, more whole foods, and if that's difficult for somebody, then we just identify what's the thing we can do. What's the one thing we can change right now? Drink more water? Cool. That's your first goal. Drink more water this week. Okay. You can't eat all your food. That's fine. Let's just add a protein for lunch. You're good with that? All right, let's do it. Okay. Hey, you're doing good this week. Let's change one more thing.
Yeah.
And then we have our consistent weigh-ins, because we'd like to see the things change that we're looking at: body fat percentage, muscle mass percentage, weight. But people are happy with 10 pounds lost in 6 weeks. Yeah, they'd be happy with 20, but is it necessary? Am I teaching them a healthy, balanced lifestyle that way? If we were just jamming hard workouts down their throats, that they probably aren't ready for, or, jamming a bunch of food down their throat that they're, at the end of the 6 weeks, when they're done with the challenge, they're just going to go back to all that other stuff that they left. No, I think it's more like long-term. Health and wellness is not a quick fix. It's a lifestyle change. And so really focusing on how to teach them with that lifestyle change. So, and then not injuring them in the workouts, right? We don't want you so sore that you can't get up off the toilet tomorrow morning. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to help you do your cardio or go for a walk the next day, right? So we make sure that we are slowly progressing them with the exercise variations. Start them with no weight or very little weight. Have them move their body, spread it out throughout the week, and teach them how to do it right. And it does keep a lot of people around and continuing their goal, long term.
Yeah, that's great, because I think that a lot of gym owners, especially the ones that I've been speaking to, they understand the power of a 6-week challenge model, but they're afraid to implement it because they believe that it's going to make their gym into a revolving door of people doing a challenge and then immediately leaving because I guess of the stigma of a short-term challenge. But it really sounds like you've been able to foster a much more long-term mindset and long-term progress so that people do stay around for the long term, not because they feel obliged to, but because they feel like it could really benefit them for the rest of their life, right? So I guess my question is, in terms of like logistics in running a 6-week challenge, how do you balance giving everybody their own time and attention, while having all of your monthly memberships, also during the classes? So how do you balance it? Because I know you said you're a semi-private group training. What allows you to give everybody the time and attention that they need to progress?
Yeah. So honestly, like, the check-ins really help and help people know that you care and keep them on track. So literally checking in with a client once or twice a week when they're outside of the gym, sending them a text message. If it's something big where they're having an issue, then I set a time with them that, hey, come 10 minutes early, we're going to talk before your session starts, and we're going to troubleshoot this together. So that, plus when they're here, it's just not work out and get out. It's I make it a habit to have them weigh in, as soon as they step in the gym, okay, hey, looks good. All right. Nope. What happened? So even while they're warming up or working out, we can talk through, hey, what happened? You didn't lose, you stayed the same weight. What happened the last 3 or 4 days? Talk me through that. So while they're warming up, I can, manage that. Plus, it's good to have another trainer on the floor with you who's able to give everybody else the attention if I needed to pull somebody aside and talk to them. And then, one of the responsibilities of my trainers or trainer, I have one trainer here with me, is, hey, who the 6-week challenges are. He does weigh-ins too if I'm busy. So he knows, the process that we go through and what we're trying to get these people to do. And so he'll verbally, face to face, hey, how's it going? How's the meals? You having any trouble? You're drinking your water? Those questions, just to make sure people are like, it's in the front of their mind too. Oh yeah, I am. All right, cool. No, I'm not. I need to get better. Okay. Here's some ways to get better. And so, it's not just me, it's a team effort, with my other trainer and I, and then just making sure these people are, know that they're being tracked and concerned about, so I think that helps a lot. And, as far as longevity or retention, I should say, it really comes down to they go through the 6-week challenge. They feel they've got a ton of attention. These people care. Maybe they didn't hit their weight loss goal of 15 pounds or whatever. Maybe they lost 10. We can pretty much guarantee that when you change your eating styles, and what you're eating to better food, to, fueling your body a little bit more often than most people probably do, and adding in the smart training to it, their body feels 20 times better at the end of the 6 weeks. And just that feeling of, hey, I feel so much better, I want to keep on going. I don't want to stop this, because I think the biggest, thing is people go off and, they have their goal and they just start running, or they just start, working out. And then it gets so overwhelming, they don't know what to do when they're on their own, and we make it easy for them. We tell them what to do. All they got to do is show up. And that's what I tell people. Getting here is half the battle. We'll take care of the rest. So if somebody's here, they're going to be guided and coached, hold through the workout, push through the workout, or just high five through the workout if they're doing great and don't need a lot of pushing, right? They kind of get the fun, they get the flow, they understand what day it is and what we're doing, and they understand, like, hey, I've been, the warm up here pretty much is the same. So, by 6 weeks, by even 2 or by week 3, they pretty much are just, on it, and they're doing it. And all they need to do is follow a board or follow a coach, and that makes it very easy for them, and then I could speak to that at the end of the 6 weeks and say, hey, like, the worst thing you can do is go off and try to do this on your own, because we know that didn't work in the past. Let's continue this progress. Let's not quit.
Yeah, that gives you really good leverage as well, just moving forward. Yeah, and then I'm curious. So, what happens after the 6-week challenge? Do you continue doing the same kinds of check-ins with everybody, or does it kind of ease off a little bit?
That's like kind of as an individual's personal needs, and but for the most part, we do everything the same. They'll weigh in each week. Still going to do it, track their weight. Still going to check in on them. Still going to coach their nutrition. Change it up when we need to change it up. End of the 6-week challenge, there's a few things we have them not eat, just like melons or bananas. We take a few of those things away, but after the 6-week challenge, some of those, fruits and vegetables that we might take away, we give back. We don't have them eat things like beets or squashes or pumpkin or corn, during the 6-week challenge, just to kind of minimize a few variables. But afterwards, they get a new meal plan, which is very, still, tweaked to their, what they're trying to accomplish. But they just get it to be a little bit more free. I sit down and talk to them about, like, basically the 80-20, like 80% of the time, if you look at a calendar month, that's going to be 80% of the times 24 days or so. So if you can do 24 days of getting your workout in, drinking your water, eating your food, going on a walk or jog or hike or something, getting good sleep, that still leaves you with 6 or 7 other days where if something's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to ruin your progress. You're still going to make progress at that 80-20. You know, doing things 80% of the time right. The other 20% of the time, you can live your life a little bit. You know, if you go out to have some drinks with some friends, hey, it's no big deal, right? And so I think that's that, you know, retention and longevity and that lifestyle of health and wellness is, you know, working toward, you know, teaching people that 80-20 after the 6-week challenge and how to really continue working on their progress, you know. But then at the same time, I tell them, like, if you really want to still make that hard progress, you know, that hardcore work and progress, then you want to be closer to 90 or 100, you know, percent.
Yeah.
But if there's a, you know, a week where you're only 80%, hey, don't get down on yourself. You know, you're still going to make progress. You're still going to get results. They just might slow down a little bit, but it doesn't mean you're like failed, you know, because you had a bad week or you had like one night out, you know, with your loved ones and ate whatever you felt like eating, you know. So
Yeah. Well, Taylor, like 40 minutes just absolutely flew by right now. It was an absolute pleasure to learn more about, you know, your story and also just get more insights as to how, you know, you've been running the gym and how you've been running the challenges. I guess as, you know, a closing thought, I was curious, like, do you have any advice for, you know, somebody who's maybe like in your position in high school or university, you know, looking to maybe start, you know, a fitness professional career or some kind of, you know, they want to maybe open up a gym or work for a gym? What kind of advice would you give for them? Would you tell them to go to the army first or?
no, you don't need to go to the army first. But my advice would be to, you know, school's good. You know, school's great. I learned a lot more outside of school when it came to working with human beings than I did in school. You know, so it helps to have you know, some of those core classes under your belt. You got to know the anatomy. You got to know what muscles are doing and what their functions are. You know, so take those classes serious, you know, but honestly, like, if you're driven, if you really like this stuff, if you really want to get into, you know, training people, then, you know, what I did is actually found a class that was using a book. The NASM CPT book was the textbook. And I learned as much as I could in that class. You don't have to do a semester worth of classes to do that. You could do it on your own. You know, the study materials, the certification prep is really, really good nowadays. Even, you know, do some seminars, you know, do an internship, even if, you know, it's going to be for free more than likely in a gym, but go shadow a trainer who's been doing it for 10 years. Go shadow somebody who, you know, owns a gym, or go shadow a strength and conditioning facility, or, you know, in the college weight room, and just take notes and ask lots of good questions. And then, you know, on your own personal studying for your certifications, you know, just learn it, apply yourself. You don't need to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree to be a personal trainer. Does it help? Yeah, it does help. It helps a lot, you know. I think when I tell people, yeah, I have a master's degree in kinesiology, my emphasis was strength and conditioning, you know, all that stuff, you know, that definitely gives me some street credit, you know, for what I'm doing. But is it necessary? No. Again, my route was focused on being a college strength coach, and I had to have that master's degree,
Right.
you know, and those certifications. But, you know, is it necessary? No, because if you put in the time and, like I said, do an internship, you know, and study hard and get into a gym and learn under somebody and get paid for, you know, then get started and get paid to do it. You know, the more you do it, the more you're going to learn, you know, apply the tools that these certifications give you, and, you know, then go out and continue your education through other certifications. Like I went out and got the functional movement screen, the FMS, you know, for, you know, which was another assessment tool. Yeah, I could have just used NASM's assessments, which were great, but I wanted a little bit more, you know, and continue that. So always be learning. That's what I would say.
No, great advice, great advice. And yeah, Taylor, it was an absolute pleasure to learn more about what you do and everything that's been happening. Anybody who wants to work out at Creed, Creed Strength and Fitness, Creed Strength and Conditioning, sorry, at Chico.
No, strength and fitness. You're right.
In the fitness. Okay. Sorry, I got that mixed up the first time.
No, it's all right. I know I say strength and conditioning because that's just my my certifications and my background. But like, I chose fitness at the recommendation of some business people because it would actually probably attract a wider demographic. If it was just strength and conditioning, people are going to see that and be like, oh, like that's just for these people.
For only athletes. Yeah.
Yeah, for athletes. And I'm not an athlete. But honestly, I thought about changing it to strength and conditioning now that I'm like established. But at the same time, fitness kind of gives you that broader range of who you're going to attract. And so I'm going to stay with it. And yeah, but yeah, that's it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And from a marketing perspective, I mean, having the fitness is great for SEO. So everyone's going to be searching that up on Google. So, great move on your part. But yeah, Taylor, all the best to you. We're definitely still going to be keeping in touch as we help you out. But yeah, thanks so much for hopping on. I really appreciate you hopping on to the inaugural podcast episode.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much, Taylor. Thanks.